I'm Greg Johnston, CEO of Carl Data Solutions, an industrial Internet of Things company that provides big data solutions for monitoring critical infrastructure. Carl Data offers machine learning and predictive analytics features to our cloud-based applications to deliver key asset-saving operational insights from massive amounts of data. Carl Data trades on the CSE symbol CRL and the pink symbol CDTAF. For more details on Carl Data, please visit carlsolutions.com.
Welcome to the Goddard Report. Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Bob Mackin, publisher of TheBreaker.News. He's an award-winning investigative reporter. Bob, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
The big political news in Vancouver, Mayor Gregor Robertson is not going to seek another term in the civic elections. He won't tell us why he's stepping down, but does it look like his party, Vision Vancouver, is in disarray with him there or without him?
It is. Vision Vancouver is out of gas, or, well, they don't like fossil fuel analogies, so they're out of patchouli oil or something like that. This is a party that grew too big because of the political system that the BC Liberals allowed to happen for so many years, the Wild West of political donations. Vision Vancouver became perhaps the richest political party on a civic basis in Canada by exploiting the system of unlimited donations and no cap on donations or the source of donations. And they were able to win 3 elections with Gregor Robertson at the helm. They lost a few seats during the 2014 election, and they were worried at the last minute that they might not get all the vote out, but they got the vote out. They lost their majority on school board, and they lost their majority on park board, however, but they retained a majority on city council. It was a hard election for them. It was an election in which Gregor Robertson showed some desperation. At the last debate, just a few days before voting day, he had a surprise apology and said that if he gets reelected, he'll do better in the next term. Well, the question that Vancouver voters had in their minds going to this October 20th, when the election is, that Gregor Robertson, has he actually learned his lesson? Did he atone for his sins and errors of the previous terms? And I think the resounding answer is no. And as much as Robertson is trying to downplay the questions about the major issue right now, which is the housing affordability crisis in Vancouver, as much as he's trying to downplay that question, that is the real reason why he's quitting. He's unelectable. He cannot get reelected in this environment because he cannot do enough in the next 10 months to turn the ship around when it comes to housing. A company called Stratcom, Strategic Communications Incorporated, the secret to Vision Vancouver's success. To run a political campaign, you need to know what the voters are thinking so you can tailor your messages to the voters and please the voters and get those all-important votes. Well, Stratcom is also the polling company for the NDP. And the NDP, it got into power in 2017. It hived away lots and lots and lots of votes, in the Lower Mainland especially, from the BC Liberals, because they tailored their message to the housing issue. Housing was top of mind for people in Metro Vancouver, and you can feel it now because we're still waiting for the budget in February for the NDP to actually unveil their housing plan, or affordable housing plan, to also crack down on speculators and offshore money that's flowing into Vancouver and British Columbia. Well, Gregor Robertson is no fool. The people at Stratcom would have told him that here's the data that they did for the NDP. Data hasn't changed. Housing's still number one, and Gregor Robertson came to power in 2008 on the issue of housing. The first 2 pages in the Vancouver platform to 2008 are all about housing and all about affordability. He promised that Vision Vancouver is going to end street homelessness by 2015. That didn't happen. In fact, street homelessness has increased in the Lower Mainland, has increased in Vancouver. The only thing that Vision Vancouver has actually succeeded in doing is allowing its donors to build more luxury towers to create spaces for some of the richest people in the world to live or not to live. We got a lot of empty homes, a lot of empty condos in Vancouver. They're trying to stem that tide with the new empty homes tax. That's a big experiment. Let's see if they can succeed in bringing some money back to the public treasury or forcing some of those absentee landlords to actually rent their places to Vancouverites on an affordable basis, or just sell to locals so locals can live in their own city now. But an entire generation of Vancouverites has given up on the dream of owning a house in Vancouver. And we're seeing it in the service industries that there are stores and restaurants that are either closing down because of taxes, high taxes from their assessments, or they can't do the simple thing. They can't get enough people to come and work at their stores and restaurants because the people don't want to spend so much time on transit because they can't afford to live in Vancouver anymore near those stores and restaurants. So housing affordability and all the other aspects of the housing equation are what's driven Gregor Robertson to make this decision to get out of politics. And now the question is, who will run for mayor? And will Vision Vancouver put a mayoral candidate forward? Because Vision Vancouver, again, looks like this party has an uncertain future, and you've got to wonder, was it a single-use party? Was it a party that was just built or rebuilt back in the mid-2000s to find a leader like Gregor Robertson, who's very photogenic and appealed to a certain segment of the population? Now that he's going, and with no apparent leader to take up the reins, is this the end of Vision Vancouver? Will the NPA get its act together and get a viable candidate and win? Or will there be an independent candidate like Mike Harcourt was back in the day, who will come and take up the reins of power on October 20th?
We'll have more with Bob Mackin right after the break.
Arctic Star Exploration, operated by a team of proven mine finders, is focused on diamonds in Finland and the Northwest Territories of Canada. A work program is planned for our Finland property that contains diamond-bearing kimberlite. Arctic Star trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ADD, and the Frankfurt Exchange, symbol 82A1. Please visit our website at arcticstar.ca or call us at 604-689-1799.
I'm Brian Fowler, president of Blind Creek Resources Limited, listed on the TSX Venture Exchange, ticker symbol BCK. Blind Creek is focused in the Yukon, Northwest Territories, and British Columbia. The company's key property is the Blend Project, one of the largest undeveloped lead-zinc-silver deposits in Western Canada, plus plans to advance the recently acquired, fully permitted historic engineered gold mine in the Atlan District of Northwestern BC. Check us out at blindcreekresources.com.
Welcome back. We're chatting with Bob Mackin. Bob, did Gregor Robertson use his own private email for doing city business?
Yes. I have found evidence, inadvertently. I wanted to find out about what he was doing in terms of the housing file in lobbying federal and provincial cabinet ministers and leaders on what to do to help Vancouver's housing situation, see if he was doing anything to ask for federal or provincial help, for instance, to deal with the issues of money laundering in the housing market. And I got very little back, but what I did get back included one page in which his chief of staff, Kevin Quinlan, sent him an email to his Gmail address. So I discovered that Gregor Robertson has a Gmail address. Well, I got curious about that. I filed another FOI request to Vancouver City Hall asking for all of the email between any City of Vancouver City Hall email address and Gregor Robertson's Gmail address for a 3-year period preceding the last election. So from January 2014 to October 2017, City Hall delayed a few times, but then they applied to the Information and Privacy Commissioner's office. They wanted to delay this file until after the election. They said that there's just too many emails and it'll take too much time for them to process. It would take away time from doing other tasks. So they wanted the Information and Privacy Commissioner to let them have until next November to give me the documents. Well, the Information Privacy Commissioner's office told them, you can have a delay, but the delay will only last until middle of June, and if you can get those records released in phases before June, please do so. And so I discovered when the Information Privacy Commissioner's office sent me its decision, they quoted the City of Vancouver's application that there were more than 6,200 pages of email from Gregor Robertson's Gmail account that were communications with people on City Hall email servers. This is serious. This is very serious. We saw what happened in the United States with Hillary Clinton and her email, how she used a private server to evade the FOI law down there. We saw what happened with the BC Liberal government with various cabinet ministers within the Quick Wins ethnic outreach scandal in 2013, how they were using Gmail. Now we find out that Gregor Robertson is using a Gmail address even after the former Information Privacy Commissioner in 2015 sent out a memo to all people in provincial and municipal governments in British Columbia telling them, do not use private email. And if you use private email, be ready to be FOI'd, because when any government official uses private email and discusses anything to do with work, their public work, it still is under the auspices of the Act. I can ask the government to search it, and I can ask the government to show it to me, because the Information Commissioner herself in 2015 said so. And Google is also a company that uses servers in foreign countries, the United States. Our politicians have been told by the Information and Privacy Commissioner that they should be doing whatever they can to keep all the information inside Canada on Canadian servers. So this is very distressing that Gregor Robertson was communicating in a fashion to keep his job and what he was doing on his job away from the eyes of Vancouverites, even though he was told, like everyone else in governments in British Columbia, don't do it.
Is there any penalty for doing that?
Well, the only real penalty in the Information and Privacy Commissioner's Act, the Freedom of Information Protection and Privacy Act, the only real penalty is public scrutiny and public shame and public questions. The public will have a chance to see what he was emailing back and forth about on his Gmail account when those records start to get released in June, or hopefully sooner. Was he doing something in those emails that he was keeping away from public eyes because he was doing something illegal? Was he doing fundraising, for instance, for his political party? We don't know. There could be so many other things that he's hiding from us, but the fact that a politician is going to this length to hide information from us is alarm bell number one. And on the other side of the coin, this may be completely innocuous. Maybe there's nothing in there that really is salacious. Benefit of the doubt. But the fact that he is using Gmail only gives people the fuel to doubt him and doubt his motives. And he should know better. And that's what we're going to find out in June going forward. But the fact that I got the story out that there's a cloud over his head, 6,200 email pages through a Gmail account that the mayor of Vancouver was using. This is a mayor who came to power in 2008 in his election platform, and then in his swearing-in speech after the election, he said in no uncertain terms that he was going to make City Hall more open and accountable, and the words that he used in that swearing-in speech were, "I will not let you down." And the question is to the people of Vancouver, do you feel let down because your mayor has thumbed his nose at the provincial FOI law? Do you feel let down because your mayor has been using a Gmail account to avoid disclosure under the FOI law? The people of Vancouver will not get a chance to say yay or nay about that at the polling booths in October because Gregor Robertson is not running again.
We'll have more with Bob Mackin right after this.
I'm Bill McWilliam, president of Cascadero Copper, CCD on the TSX Venture Exchange. Cesium is one of the world's rarest metals with a growing industrial demand. Drilling is underway on our Tehran property in Argentina to prove up a cesium resource. Cascadero's patent-pending leach process has the potential to make Cascadero the lowest cost supplier of cesium in the world. Visit our website, cascadero.com, or phone us at 604-924-5504.
In Goddard we trust.
Welcome back. We're talking to Bob Mackin. Bob, you're at the Korea Summit in Vancouver, hosted by Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister, attended by 21 Foreign Affairs Ministers from around the world, including Secretary of State Rex Tillerson. What was your feeling there? To me, it seemed a lot like this was more of a war conference than a last chance at peace.
Oh, definitely was a war conference. They didn't call it that. They had a long and involved title for it, but it really was a war conference. This was foreign ministers from countries who actually fought in the war when it was active in the 1950s. The war between South Korea and North Korea did not end. There's an armistice. It's on hold, but the war did not end, and every day people in South Korea wake up with a neighbor next door who has nuclear bombs pointed at them. People in South Korea wake up every day under the protection of the United States. They have a U.S. military base there, a very strong presence by the American military, and a lot of South Koreans are not happy that there's Americans there, and they wish the Americans would go home, but at the same time, the Americans are protecting them because there are some people that analyze the situation and say that the North Koreans just have more military might. They're backed by China. They're backed by Russia. China and Russia were not at this conference, and the Chinese and Russian governments both had nasty things to say about this conference. At the post-conference news conference, where Rex Tillerson, the U.S. Secretary of State, and Chrystia Freeland, Canada's foreign minister, both spoke, as they're the co-hosts of this conference at the Vancouver Convention Centre. They both emphasized that they're not looking for a regime change or collapse. They used very diplomatic language. What they want is the denuclearification or denuclearization of North Korea. They want Kim Jong-un to take a step back from his button, whatever size it is, and to not threaten Japan, not threaten South Korea, not threaten North America with these weapons. He has done live tests and sent weapons in the air over Japan, and threatening Guam. There is a real worry that a mistake could happen, especially after what happened last weekend in Hawaii, where there was that major false alarm where people, for more than half an hour, felt their world was going to end because of a mistake made by the Hawaiian Emergency Response System. So, this conference was at the Vancouver Convention Center. The 20 foreign ministers from 20 different countries were there. They did have a photo op with them, and they did have the post-conference news conference, also opening remarks, but we don't know what was actually said during the conference. Most of the conference was closed. It was done in secret so that these allies could plot a way forward. We'll see in the weeks and months to come what those decisions might have been and how they come into action. The one big thing that will be coming up pretty soon, of course, next month is the Pyeongchang 2018 Winter Olympics. And the North Koreans have decided to participate. They took the invitation of the South Koreans and the IOC. There will be North Korean athletes there. There will be North Korean dignitaries and arts groups. So I guess you can say that at least during February there might be some, if you can call it this, insurance against Kim Jong-un using the Olympics to threaten anyone or cause an attack. But beyond February, beyond the Olympics, that still is an open question. Will what happened in Vancouver give the resolve to the allies, especially Canada and the U.S., as well as the Japanese and South Koreans, to go forward and convince the Chinese and the Russians, the key allies in North Korea, to come together so that those of us in the Pacific Rim can not worry about the possibility of a nuclear weapon.
Were those false alarms in both Japan and Hawaii a wake-up call for the west coast of Canada? Because as far as I know, we have no plans at all to deal with a missile attack.
Exactly. It's been very interesting to watch in the last 2 or 3 years how lax Canadian authorities have been regarding North Korea. Meanwhile, the Americans have been making preparations. Even the Canadian media versus the American media has been telling a different story. American media outlets have been analyzing the situation, watching the situation, and realizing to themselves that, we're within range. And we're just waking up to that reality now. And I think we're a little bit too late to the table. The Hawaiians have been, to their credit, as well as people in Guam, taking measures in the past year or so from an emergency response standpoint because of the stakes that are so high that the Hawaiians are they've gone through an attack before. Pearl Harbor, they know what it's like to have a foreign invasion force exact so much misery on their territory. They were taking, especially in the fall of last year, measures to do emergency siren tests. Back from the Cold War, there were emergency sirens all over the places. They're getting those ready again. And then this mistake happened on the weekend, which does not bode well because, people, the worst thing you can do is have a false alarm, and then people get cynical and say, well, if there is another alarm, they might be desensitized to it. So they got a bit of a learning curve there and a bit of a problem to mop up there from the emergency standpoint. But here in Canada, I don't think we're getting ready to that point of understanding what the threat could be. And especially if there is a mistake. That was one of the questions I was asked yesterday. I didn't get a response. The reporter that asked the question about the situation between the rhetoric that Trump has exhibited on Twitter, for instance, and the fact that there were these false alarms, the Hawaiian false alarm, and of course the Japanese TV network false alarm, that could these mistakes and the rhetoric add up to an unintentional war or attack in some way? And what are they doing to encourage Trump to talk to Kim Jong-un? We just don't know if that's happened. Rex Tillerson did not comment one way or another if the President of the United States has talked to the dictator of North Korea.
Well, one wonders if they can hit a false warning button, how hard is it for them to hit the real deal and launch missiles? That's the $100 million question. We should be paying more attention, especially when in our culture that has taken some interest. I mean, Vancouver was the site for the filming of the comedy The Interview, Seth Rogen's comedy about an assassination attempt against Kim Jong-un. And of course, down the I-5 in Washington State, Hanford, the Hanford Nuclear Reservation is going to be for decades and maybe centuries to come the waste site for nuclear waste that was from the original program to build the original nuclear bombs from World War II. This shouldn't be something that's out of our mind. British Columbia, we're very much preparing for a major earthquake. In some coastal communities, they're preparing for a tsunami. We had forest fires last summer throughout British Columbia. Then, of course, there's always the debate about climate change, but various politicians are trying to make make preparations for a future that might be featuring hotter summers in British Columbia. So why aren't we spending more time focusing on what is now a real threat, which is a nuclear bomb from North Korea? It does boggle the mind why our policymakers aren't paying more attention to do that, especially when, not that long ago, the 2010 Winter Olympics included that as part of its security fear, that there would be a chemical or biological or nuclear attack. Well, why aren't we at least talking about that and wondering what we can do to prepare? Bob, always a pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you.
My guest has been Bob Mackin, award-winning investigative reporter and publisher of thebreaker.news. If you have any questions for Bob or any of our other guests, you can send them to info@howstreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard. Thanks for listening.
Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. The Goddard Report is available online and mobile at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. The Goddard Report is a production of How Street Media Incorporated.